Buenos nachos, amigos, and welcome to Record Breakers. It's a podcast about music. It's a podcast where a bunch of friends, namely four of us, gather together to share music with each other, an album at a time. It's like a little book club for music. It's really fun. We share music with each other, kind of discover new things. And then you can be on the journey with us as well. So let's get started. I'm PD Rave, your man with no plan. Here with me is my team, my squad, my crew, my quorum. We've got Brett.
I have it on good authority that John Delancey has crusty space hands.
Yes. We've got Drew.
Hi.
Yes. And we've got David.
Couldn't look away from the train wreck. You can blame it on the tech or the disrespect. Before you play, you better button check.
Mm-hmm. We're here to talk about music, talk about an album, talk about an epic of an album, brought to us by Drew. Drew, what have you brought to us this fine day?
I figured something with recent news that should probably be talked about that we haven't really. A little bit of soul.
Be honest,
music.
Drew. You just wanted to help PD with the SEO.
Yeah, that
Yes.
SEO is coming in, getting them clicks.
Yeah.
People are mad because they can't listen.
We're
to
gonna
the
get
album.
a whole lot of angry people on our YouTube channel. Hi, angry people, thinking you were gonna get to listen to this album, but really you're listening to a bunch of idiots talk about this album. It's
Support the
Aretha
official
Franklin.
release.
Indeed.
Buenos nachos.
Buy it.
Indeed.
Don't try to get it for free, buttholes. Aretha Franklin,
Or do. I don't
Lady
care.
Soul.
Mm-hmm. Aretha, Lady Soul. We're talking about, this is kind of an epic of an album. Brett, what were your expectations coming into this album?
I'm familiar. Now, have I actually gone and listened to this album front to back ever in my life before? No. Am I going to again? We'll find out later.
Yes. Stay tuned. David, Deej, what were your expectations coming into this album?
Never heard of her.
I don't know her, Aretha.
In the case of Aretha Franklin and this album, Lady Soul, to ask what my expectations were is kind of a cheat code because, well, yeah, my expectations were to enjoy an album of songs I've already heard plenty of. This is what some people might call a meatball of a pitch. It's kind of a 70-mile-an-hour slow pitch that, for me, was just kind of, as Jim Price would say, my eyelashes clicked, and I was just ready to swing for the fences.
Yes. This is an album of songs that are. I'm not gonna say I've heard all of the songs, but this is a sound that I kind of had an idea of what to expect, sound and music wise.
Not quite Thriller, PD Rave.
No,
but yeah,
because not quite Thriller, where we have heard the songs that were on the record a million times. Where this one we've heard a couple, but we know the sound and know the feel and the style of music, and we know the singer. We're a little bit familiar, but yeah, Drew, how would you just describe this album musically? What would be the themes and elements?
Well, Lady Soul is an album you've probably heard a good deal of already because some of the songs are they're classics. Aretha Franklin as an artist, I think, is one of those artists that everybody knows because it's, even if you are not like a huge fan of certain styles of music and stuff like that, there are certain artists that are touchstones in like American history, and Aretha Franklin, I believe, is one of them. Lady Soul, I think, is one of the best albums to sort of package up what that is and why that is. has some of the bigger hits that you probably know and love. It brings people together on this record. The personnel list is kind of insane. You have writers on this album helping out, such as James Brown and Curtis Mayfield. The guitarists alone, you got Bobby Womack and Eric Clapton on this record. Like, it's kind of crazy, and makes sense. And even with all of that, the obvious showstopper is Aretha Franklin's voice. There is power and range and control in her voice that just demand you sort of listen to it. The music is great and it plays its part well, and there are parts of it where it does punch through and stand out, but it's a vocalist album through and through because you can't get past that goddamn voice. You can put her in front of a lot of musicians and she can steal the show. There is catchy hooks, there is great horns, there is great guitar licks here and there, but the thing on any Aretha Franklin album is her voice. It's something that we were making jokes about it in the run-up to hitting record. There are female vocalists that have tried to imitate her control and her runs, and it always sounds like a bad parody. It always sounds like someone trying to hit more notes than anybody else. She did it. Aretha Franklin would do note runs in... God damn it. Try to do note runs with a measure of control and grace that, like, people seem to forget was just as much a part of it as the goddamn, like, vocal gymnastics she was able to play at times.
She had soul. She didn't just have talent. She had soul.
Right.
Brett, how would you describe this album musically? What would be the themes, elements?
It's an album that's focused around the vocalist, but there's other things going on. Also, this is going to be the coldest take ever on this album. Yeah, it's got a big voice. It's along with that, you have muted bass lines that are good, but they have that, like, recorded on a bass amp that's made out of cardboard kind of sound because it's old. It's got a horn section in a lot of songs because it's an old song. It's an old album where you expect that, along with really tight drums. There's, like, some use of some organ that really stood out. It's also a very fast listen, but probably the thing that, like, the thing that stood out to me is this is one of those albums that you can, like, as you're listening to it, you can almost smell the, like, nicotine stained, smoky and dusty vinyl that came out of a Salvation Army bin, and you threw on your turntable. It has all the pops, the clicks, the almost clipping microphones, the recordings of the era. It is very of its time. Look at the haircut on the cover of the album. It's been around for a while.
Yes.
So.
Yes. Oddly enough, for some reason, I keep thinking of this image. I keep thinking it's like Aretha. You can tell it's like from a similar era as Celia Cruz, and the album we talked about that, which is in the 60s, early 70s, like that amazing hair right there.
Yes,
just amazing.
That beehive, though.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, Queen. Yes. Deej. Well, how would you describe this album musically? What would be the themes, elements that stand out?
It's hard for me to quantify it because, to me, it is obvious what I'm listening to when I hear this. I already know. If you're listening to this podcast, there's a good chance you already know. You know Aretha Franklin's voice. You recognize the name. You recognize the brand. The name of the album is Lady Soul. It's self-explanatory. And it came out in 1967. So if you have a grasp of R&B and soul from that era, you know what you're getting. If you know the name Aretha Franklin and you know her body of work, you know that this is arguably her at her peak. And spoiler, this album has my favorite Aretha Franklin song of them all on this album. So I say, if you are someone that does not know what you're getting into, you're going to get a solid, funky R&B album with a generational lead vocalist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, trying to define this album, it's like trying to define is. Like, what is. You know?
It's more like trying to define pizza.
Yes.
Most of us,
It's
we
like
know
a
what it
casserole
is.
that's made on a pan.
Yeah.
Hey, this is don't
I
pull
solved that
Chicago
mystery.
into this.
I pulled that. They do it in Detroit like that too.
Yeah. It's like more like a square.
It's a rectangular. It's
Rectangle.
whatever you had around the
It's-
stamp factory.
As the kids say, y'all already know.
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to say about this album.
You know, and you know what I say? All pizza is great, no matter where it's from.
In a pinch, bad pizza is better than nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Bad pizza is still good
Food.
because
Good
it's
food.
pizza.
Pizza brick.
Pizza is just like sex. Even when it's bad, it can still be good.
And it's better cold.
I was wondering where that was going to go.
Let's talk about some key tracks.
Necrophilia.
Stop.
I was just saying under a cozy sweater.
Super X on Twitter.
God
I was
damn it.
just saying. I just meant like in like the winter time when you're getting snuggly. God damn, I didn't mean.
I mean, you went full TSOL up in here.
Yes. You know, in front of a fire. You know. Drew,
Still stands.
After all that, let's talk about some of the key tracks. What would be some of the key tracks for you?
Well, it starts out with a song that you may have heard of. It's called Chain of Fools. It's one of the catchiest songs to ever be a song. Ever. There's some vocal gymnastics on the track. The vibrato in like the note changes is incredible. It's just so good.
Well, actually, it's tremolo.
Whatever.
That doesn't matter.
Whatever. The word for the shaky of the notes as it moves.
The volume going up and down is tremolo. The tone knob being turned is vibrato. Very similar. But Fender screwed it up. They even put it on their guitar amps incorrectly forever. So it's a common mistake.
Oh my god. Okay.
The more you know.
Yeah.
People get ready. If you didn't think I was gonna mention the Curtis Mayfield one with the soul horn section, you haven't been listening to this podcast long enough. Because hi, I'm here to do that. Again, there is some great horn playing on this. The tune itself is really catchy, but Franklin's voice steals it again. It's a song that really kind of hits you right in your heart and soul. Soul.
In your brain.
And then Good to Me As I Am to You is a song that like has great piano and great guitar playing on top of Aretha Franklin's vocal. I'm not sure if in the studio who was behind the Ivories at the time, because there's a couple of different options they had for this.
Elton John.
So, yes, Elton John was.
He was crocodile rocking all up and down there.
Spooner.
But
About a guy by the name of Spooner.
Spooner.
Spooner Oldham.
Big Spooner or little
Spooner Oldham.
Right, the guy's name is Spooner.
Him and Skunk Baxter should hang out.
But
It's better than his actual name, which is Dewey.
Dewey Lyndon Oldham.
I bet that guy's like gonna send in a nasty email because we're making fun of his names.
Yes.
He is in fact still alive.
See,
if he at 75, if he at
I would feel bad.
75 is chilling in Alabama listening to us, I'd love to hear from him. How'd you pick the nickname Spooner? Is it like it sounds?
Played the magical spoons.
You and old
Yeah.
John Smokey could get together and chill. But God, that song had some musicality from a lot of people in that, and it was the one time where I was like, okay, the music is meeting Aretha Franklin's great vocals in this one. Like it's coming up there.
Yeah. It is just it's a sight to behold in a sound to behold with your ears. Brett, what will be some of the key tracks for you?
I behold things with my ears, such as the opening track, "Chain of Fools." It's obviously a hit with staying power. No, it's a pretty good opening track. It's got that gurgling guitar and like almost hard clipping microphone. Like it was a neat like. They have better equipment these days than they did back then, but even then, I bet they let in that little bit of grit just to be like, oh, listen how hard she is singing. So hard. It's like pushing our equipment to the point of it getting kind of chunky, which was cool. Also, You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman is another song that is everywhere, and I'm pretty sure it's sold products. It's a song that is everywhere.
Carole
You've heard it a
King
million times. It's
wrote
a good song. But what I really came here to talk about were a couple of songs that I thought were put into this album in a pretty great way. Good to Me As I Am to You, and right after it, Come Back Baby.
Yeah.
Because it had the back-to-back changes of tone and tempo. Because they're both blues songs. They're both very... They're not like crazy blues progressions, but they're the blues. And one of them is the like I got the blues, and the other one is like the like I'm having fun noodling on my guitar. Like I don't really have that much of the blues, but I can play some really fun music that's kind of upbeat. Also, the content of both of those songs being what they are.
Immediately after one another.
Yeah, and like how it ramps up to it was. That was some good choices were made.
Yeah. Deej, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
The obvious ones have already been mentioned, but the one that caught my ear the most was Nikki Hokey. This one was super earwormy. Just the chorus was just so much fun. The song as a whole was just a jam. Just an absolute jam. Nikki Hokey. And that was the one that hadn't been mentioned already. Chain of Fools, of course. You Make Me Feel, of course. Come Back Baby and Groovin', of course.
Just a veritable murderer's row of fantastic tracks. Like, it's just top to bottom. Just killer. All killer, no filler, as the kids would like to say.
Hot bangers from front to back.
No, All Killer No Filler was a very different record.
Yeah. This shit slaps, some would say.
Aretha got
Nikki
the voice
Nikki
to make
Hokey.
the booty go.
Yes.
Nikki Hokey is a bop. That song is a bop.
Yes.
I will take that and rewind it back.
Is it a bop bop a loop bop a ram pam pam?
No.
No. It's wrong in so many different ways. But yeah.
All right, let's bring it back around the horn and talk about some conclusive thoughts. Brett, what would be your conclusive thoughts on this album as a whole?
I mean, I listened to this album front to back quite a bit, several times. Like, I think I've done my time with this album for a while. Like, it's great. I don't think I can get away from some of these songs if I even actively tried to. I'll just enjoy them as what they are. They're a part of American culture and culture, I guess. They're going to be around longer than me, so I better get used to it. But it's not a bad time. Like, it doesn't hurt. It's good.
Mm-hmm. Deej, what would be your conclusive thoughts on this album as a whole?
It's fantastic. It's fun, and you're hearing just incredible musicians all over from top to bottom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is undeniable.
No need for a soliloquy.
Yeah, it is undeniable. It is top notch. It is amazing. It is really, really beautiful sounding. It is just undeniable. It is just classic. I think that there's not much to say other than that. It's just classic. Drew, what would be your conclusion on this album?
I brought this album for obvious reasons. I was going to be listening to her music anyways. It's what I do when it's someone that I really, really enjoy the tunes of, and they pass. It's just my nature anyhow. So I figured as long as I'm listening to it, we might as well do it here. It's something that, again, Aretha Franklin, like we've said this whole time, is someone that is sort of those, it's a touchstone. It's something that is always going to be there in American culture, and for good reason. The music there, and of the music of that time, she sort of exemplifies in such a great way. Nice, Brett.
I had a prop. I found one. It was the closest. It's in Daisy's craft box. I don't know what the hell it is.
But
what it actually is used for. Sorry. Not much more to say about this album, Drew. Sorry.
Right. It's fantastic. It's so good. And
Fantastic.
It'll always be there.
Fantastic.
Meatballs.
Yeah, it's an album. It's such an easy album to review. Yeah, let's bring it to our main event of the evening. Let's land this puppy in the runway that is our haiku. Let's taxi this sucker. And deboard. No. Let's deplane. See, it wasn't an accent. He was just instructing, saying deplane. Yeah, people made fun
all
of
the
him,
kids
said
are going to know that reference.
Yes.
That was the Love Boat, right?
Yeah, one of those. It was something like that. It was Mork and Mindy or something like that. Let's get to our haiku reviews. As we get down to the nitty gritty, we get to our haiku reviews. We get to some good fun, some of it all up in poetic form. Let's do this. Brett, what is your haiku?
Meatball of meatballs. She was around forever, but not anymore.
Mm-hmm. Deej, what is your haiku?
Another softball. A few radio classics. An immortal voice.
Mm-hmm. My haiku. The Lady of Soul, here to lay the gospel down and melt your face off. And finally, Drew, what is your haiku?
A historic voice will be sorely missed. May she rest in peace.
Mm-hmm. We're gonna miss Aretha. She was a classic and a legend. A boss, a true diva, in the positive ways. Fantastic stuff. All right, that brings us to the end of another fantastic episode of Record Breakers. You can of course find this album on our Spotify playlist. Play Record Breakers the home game. Follow along at home. Do your due diligence and your due diligence. Do the things, listen along. On the Spotify playlist will be next week's record. And we're going to have a guest. We're going to have a Mike talk about another Mike. We're going to have a serial sensei, Mike Will, a couple of really cool music podcasts. We're going to have Mike Will. He's going to be talking about Open Mike Eagle, Hella Personal Film Festival. Really cool album. Look forward to that discussion. That over there in the future, 7 days from now, presumably. But that is next week, and this is this week. And you can, of course, find us all over the internet. David is at Initials RDJM. For now. Brett is at HeyBittyBirbird, HIBBITYBIBBARD. Just not on Twitter. Drew is at Xtrucifer. I'm at PD Rave. The show is at 4 Record Breakers. That's the number 4 Record Breakers. Only on Twitter. RecordBreakersPodcast.com. Rebelli.net for listening to the shows. RecordBreakersPodcast@gmail.com is the email. Rebelli TV on YouTube. We're on iTunes. We're on Stitcher. We're on Pocket Cast. We're in your backyard. We're in your front yard. In every outhouse, smokehouse, brick house, shit house.
I might show up at Aretha's funeral.
You never know. Right out, him
Podcast.
Faith Hill and DJ M doing a duet. You never know.
Yes.
Sunday night football on in peace. Yeah.
Yes. But keep an eye out for that. Find us everywhere. Like, share, subscribe, do all the things. Until next time, hasta los huevos.
Toodaloo. And for the record, I thought you said Rebecca Breakers earlier. And I think I found a new podcast.
Right.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.